In this episode of the Accidental CEO podcast, Larisa Kerr, the Queen of Abundance as I named her during the episode, shares her journey from a history of abuse and poverty mindset to becoming a successful coach and entrepreneur. She works with high-achieving women who want more from life and helps them overcome the mindset of a starving artist. Larisa emphasizes the importance of drawing on different experiences and thinking outside of the box to find creative and innovative solutions. She also discusses the 3 C's: clarity, confidence, and conviction, and how they can transform a person's approach to business. Larisa shares her evolving definition of success and her future plans for the Abundance Academy, including the release of her book and maybe launching a podcast this year. Let's hear from Larisa. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hello and welcome everybody to a new episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Today I have Larisa Makuch with me. She is a queen of abundance. That's what I'm going to call her. If she hasn't called herself that, that's what I'm calling her from now on. So Larisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I've never been introduced like that, but I like it.
That's your new title. We're going to sealed today. It's ready to go.
I'll take it.
Perfect. Tell us a little bit about just who you are and what do you do and where are you?
Yeah, so I have a coaching and training company, Abundance Academy, here in Toronto, Canada. And when I first started, before I even started this business, I grew up with a history of abuse and a poverty mindset, and my world was not full of abundance. Actually, in fact, it was full of abundance. I just didn't see it. And over time, I started learning so many beautiful things and integrating them into my own life, integrating them with other people that I worked with. And so now we work with high achieving women that are beautifully successful on the outside, but on the inside, they know they're looking for more. They want to be more, they want to do more, they want to have more, and they don't want to feel guilty about it. And they are tired of settling for the life they think they've been given, and they want to go for the life they actually are entitled to.
I love all of that. That's why you need to be the queen of abundance. See,
I am the queen of abundance. I've already adopted that identity.
Perfect. So let's just talk a little bit more about your background and how you ended up where you are today. I know there's a lot into your background, ranging from dancing in the US, as financial services, and in a lot more. So tell us a little bit about this journey of yours.
Yeah, I feel I remember when I was 14, I was handed a university calendar. One of those, it was a printed book that had a lot of newsprint pages that basically told me I should figure out what to do with my life at that point. And I remember my heart sinking to the floor, and I had no idea what to do with my life. And when I got to school, I remember the one program I wanted to take was actually discontinued the year before I got to university. And so I changed my major, I think about 5 or 10 times. However, what I did learn is that there is no one straightforward path to success. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I graduated and life was beautiful. However, I never went searching for a career or an opportunity. Opportunities just seemed to show up on my door. My first career was in financial services. It just appeared. I have toured internationally through dance. I've worked in the realm of sales. I've dabbled with photography. I can't say I had a photography business, but I've definitely assisted in that department. I love being on both sides of the camera. I think there's just magic that's created when you can really elicit someone's heart and soul in picture and in video. And there's just something beautiful about that. I've experienced that intimacy on many levels. And then I also ran a Pilates studio for nearly a decade. And so these different experiences, I feel like they showed up for me. I jumped at them. However, it's allowed me to look at things very differently and think outside the box. I've found that I've had my most creative and innovative approaches to solving challenges in working with clients from skills I learned in other arenas or other industries. So let's say when I was teaching Pilates to older adults, I would draw on principles that I used with my 2-year-olds from childhood development and programming. And you know what? It worked. And the classic things in the book didn't always work. But when I used my intuition, when I started drawing on other elements and pulling them because spirit was guiding me, things turned into magic. When I would think through a new marketing strategy for the Pilates studio, it would often come from something I learned perhaps in a real estate seminar or a completely different realm. And that was when it was most magical for me. That was when it worked. And there was just a sense of synergy. And so there are so many commonalities. And when you start to look at what's actually common, what is the fundamental truth, right? When it comes to movement, movement is movement is movement. Marketing is about people and learning what people want and helping them go through an emotional experience and guiding them down a path to agreement. And so when you really look at the fundamental principles, they become exciting.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I can see how. So before we started recording, Larissa was telling me how she listened to my story and found a lot of commonalities when it comes to our paths. I can see why you saw that. So many creative entrepreneurs really struggle with the starving artist mentality. How do you work with your clients to kind of shift that kind of mindset towards one of more abundance in the business ownership?
Abundance is all about plenty. Abundance is a very large quantity of things. And even just in the words starving artist, this is societal programming. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I want to put my earmuffs on when I hear that. If you were my client, I'd be like, stop saying that. Just put up the hand. No, that's not allowed in our arena. Really watching the words you say and thinking about how you're speaking about yourself, your future, and what you're doing is absolutely critical. However, overall, education is key. Artists are often brilliant at their craft. Being a dancer, I know a lot of artists. I used to do beadwork actually as well, and I used to sell that as a kid. So I've done a lot of little work in the arts, and there isn't necessarily the monetary reward. However, I think it's because so often people think of themselves as crafty and creative people, and they adopt this identity of being a starving artist instead of deciding that I'm going to be a thriving artist. I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur. I'm going to be the CEO of my life and of my business. And these are all skills that can be learned. You weren't born with a camera in your hand. You weren't born with a paintbrush in your hand. You weren't born with all these things. They're skills you acquired over time. And just like you acquired the artistic skills, you might have some predisposition towards that. You can acquire skills of business and of abundance. Within business especially, I think when you take on a growth mindset and realize it's a learning process, you learn things like how to have a long-term focus. That's a very abundant way to live. A lot of people barely know what they want to do the next week, never mind next month or next year or 5 or 10 years from now. Like, a long-term focus is a very God-driven and abundant focus. That's looking beyond where you're at is really key because it gives you something to strive for. Realizing it's a process. It's not just about getting the outcome. There are steps along the way, and you're going to fall on your face. You're going to suck and you're going to fail. But those obstacles are actually called opportunities, so you could find a better way and come out stronger on the other end. Like, it's going to take effort, and it can be joyful and it can be fun. It will take work, but it doesn't have to be hard and icky work. It can actually be really inspiring when you decide to focus on the good things and focus on the things that you're learning and how you're moving forward, allowing yourself to be inspired by others. And even from a business perspective, realizing profit is the first order of business. Profit, if you can't charge for your services and charge accordingly, you actually can't afford to stay in business. If you're paying to do your business, that's called a hobby, and that is totally cool. Just don't call it a business. It's okay to charge for your hobby. However, I think there's a difference, and when you decide that you're going to be a business person, you can start doing that with authenticity and with integrity and with grace. Like, People don't go to a grocery store and expect to walk out with a cart full of groceries and not pay for them. You expect to pay for your groceries. That store brought the groceries in. They sourced all the groceries. Like if you think about how much effort it takes to get the groceries into a grocery store for you to buy, there's a lot of steps that are along the way. And it's the same thing for you. You have so many steps that your clients don't see behind the scenes. It's not just showing up to a photo shoot. It's not just delivering your end result. There's a lot of learning you've had to do. There's a lot of editing. There's a lot of procedural aspects that you've had to create and build behind the scenes. And people don't think they're paying you for that, but you have to get paid for that work or you ain't going to do your business.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, the government officially actually declares you a hobby if you're not making money for a specific amount of time. So, making money is definitely something that is important. It should be front of mind when it comes to sustaining your business to allow you to do the things that you love to do at the end of the day. So, I want to ask you to reflect a little bit and share with us the moment of your life when you actually realize that, oh, I am a business owner, I am a CEO now. And how does that change your mindset? What was that process like for you?
That's a really great question. I remember when I first started my business, I started ready, fire, aim, and I did not have a plan. I'd always done business, but I never saw myself as a CEO. I never wanted to adopt the identity. I thought it was very corporate and stuffy. And so it took a while. And my previous position that I held, I was there for over a decade. I loved my old life. I loved my work. I loved my clients. I earned good money. I had a nice title. And I was really afraid to leave it behind. I actually started this business and I stayed in my previous business part-time in my previous job. And looking back, I shouldn't have. I should have just made a clean cut. But I was so afraid to let it go because it was such a huge part of me and my life. And when I finally cut the umbilical cord, I didn't feel free. I didn't feel like, oh my God, life is amazing. It took a good couple years for me to get over the grief of leaving something that was so good because it was so good. Despite the fact that it was good, it was also time to move on. Like it wasn't the right thing anymore. And I think sometimes people don't expect that. They don't anticipate that. And they're afraid to even admit that because they're like, woohoo, I'm encountering this new entrepreneurial thing. It's supposed to be awesome. And it was awesome. There was also things that were awesome about the other life that I no longer had. And to really fill those gaps took a while. And so I think that was a big turning point, is having that grieving process and realizing what it was once it was over. Now I'm so incredibly grateful. I would never, ever consider going back to that previous life. However, I couldn't have seen it as I was in it. I'd never heard anyone talk about that. And one of my mentors, Kelly Roach, you were saying, like, how did I adopt that CEO mentality? Kelly Roach says, train for your business like an athlete trains for her sport. She was an NFL cheerleader. And she's always taken that disciplined approach to business. And business isn't just like you show up and everything's working. You have to allow it to work. You've got to take some steps to make it work. And so I got into training mode and I said, okay, well, I know how to train. I know how to prep for a show. I know how to condition my body. I know how to run the drills. I know how to look at things from different perspectives. I'm going to do this in my own business. I'm actually going to decide to put my business owner hat on. Literally, I have a hat that I wear. It's a business mastery hat. I got it at Tony Robbins Business Mastery. And so I literally put my business hat on certain days where I'm in that business mood to get my energy in that state. But she also says, if you want to earn like a CEO, you have to act like one. And those two phrases, train for your business like an athlete trains for her sport. If you want to earn like a CEO, you have to act like one. They were repeating in my head, and they just kept going on autopilot. I didn't try. I just kept hearing her say it. I would cheat one day, and then she's like, if you want to earn like a CEO, you have to act like one. Like I could just, she's in there. Every time I think about that, every time I hear the word CEO, it's like I hear Kelly saying that. And it's so ingrained, but it took one step at a time. And I think putting that business owner identity hat on was an absolute game changer. And it was something necessary. It wasn't just a nice thing to do. It was a huge catalyst for me.
That's great. Okay, maybe we are soul twins. It's I love that you mentioned the grief process of leaving a job, that you're not necessarily living in a bad situation, right? Because I think those are a lot easier to leave behind and be happy about it. But I was in a very similar situation, leaving something that I loved for many, many years, that I worked so hard for and that I was so happy in, to a certain degree, to slowly transitioning into my new business that was also a side business for a while, because I didn't want to completely let it go, and then making the transition and now realizing, one, probably should have done a little earlier. Two, never imagine going back to that setting, and by giving yourself that time to grieve that process and that transition, which then allows you to be in a better mindset, I think, to adopt your new identity as a CEO. Because it is a transition, especially going from working for somebody and serving somebody else in your day to day to now being the boss of your life and your business, and as a new CEO. So there's definitely a transition period that I feel like we kind of neglect and just run over it and don't give ourselves time to process. So I like that you mentioned that.
Well, what do we do? We sit on these phones and we expect instant, 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 and that's not serving us. Like, this is making us create these expectations that everything should happen right away, but we need something called white space so that we can allow things to land and settle and the new answers can come to us. The answers are all within us. You just need to give them space to come to you. And if you stay busy, and there's so much emphasis on being busy and keeping your schedule full, and let's text to see if we can find a time to talk. I used to just have people call me, like, pick up the phone and let's
Yeah.
talk. People used to just drop by my door and I used to just go to people's houses. Now you have to arrange for a play date for your kids. You've got to arrange a lunch. Like, everything has to be arranged. It's not the same as it used to be when I grew up. It was so much more organic, and things are so much more structured, and there's a benefit to it. However, there's also a disadvantage because it's it keeps us in that busy mode.
So you mentioned the importance of the three C's. So clarity, confidence, and conviction in really overcoming the subconscious blocks of self sabotage, which we are the best at doing when it comes to entrepreneurs. Can you share maybe a client success story where those principles kind of transform their approach to their business?
I actually have I think clarity, confidence, and conviction are so important. They're so powerful because when you have them, you have a structure to move forward. I have a I have a client, and she actually, when she started with me, she didn't have a business. Her She was working for someone else, but her husband had actually been diagnosed with early onset dementia, and her whole life was turned upside down. And she had a life plan, she had the long-term vision, but all of a sudden it was pulled away from her, and she didn't know where to start. And so one of the things she did is she slowly rebuilt that vision over time. And I think a lot of times when we're leaving a position, we might be going through a grieving process. Maybe we don't have a spouse that's passing away. That's her story. But like for us, we had that grieving process. Something really good was taken from us. We had a vision or had some kind of preconceived notion, and it had to change. And so often people don't take the time to recreate their vision. And so she started day by day, bit by bit, recreating a new picture of her life without her husband. And letting go of something good is very difficult, and it can be a necessary part of the process. So I think she slowly built it up over time, and then what really helped her start building confidence was she didn't just build the vision, she actually acted on her vision. She's like, okay, now that I have this vision, it's getting clearer, let me take one tiny step. She had to start with tiny steps, but she started with a tiny step. And so even one little seeming step was, I want a herb garden. She bought herself a plant. It was a simple seeming step, but that one step led to another step, led to another step. And all of a sudden, now she is an established authority in her field. She's a go-to expert. She's actually started a business. She's got a business. She's been asked to sit on advisory boards, share her stories and experiences on TVs and in summits. She's got a course that she's created, and everyone in her industry is saying this is so much more powerful and effective than anything they've actually come across. Because instead of keeping people in their victim story, she says, you can have a bad situation and make something good out of it. And here are the concrete tools. And so she didn't have a business hat, but she decided to put on her business hat. And I think so often, instead of running away from it, moving forward, that is so powerful. So stepping into that identity and doing the do, building confidence is about building competence, whether you have it or not. And the conviction is really standing for something and being connected to a higher power and a purpose or something bigger than yourself. And in this process, she realized, she's like, I know I'm helping people, but for this client, she's like, I actually realized I am becoming literally such a different version of myself. She's like, I wish my husband could see me now, because I used to do everything for everyone else. I used to be this nice mother, this nice grandmother, this nice person, but I never actually knew who I was. I never really fully embraced my own skills. And sure, she's got a business, she's helping other people, she's doing the do, and along the way she's found herself in the process. And I think that's so beautiful. When you give yourself the space and the time to be able to do that, you are your most beautiful gift. So that, I think that's a really beautiful story, because I think it does parallel some of our experiences as well. And I think every entrepreneur, everyone that's in business, you get into business to help people, to earn money, to make a difference. But what do you actually find? Yourself. Like when you really look down to it, you find strength and perseverance and something within yourself that you didn't know was there before, because your biggest obstacles are going to come up as you move forward in business. And these are your chances to rise to the occasion. It's such a beautiful gift.
Definitely cannot predict until you start moving along
No,
and doing the
no.
doing the thing.
Yeah.
What is the number one mindset block that you find with your clients, especially specifically business owners, people that are trying to grow their business? What are the common things that you see as a mindset block?
I would say it goes back to the clarity, the confidence, and the conviction. They don't have the clarity of what they want. They don't develop the confidence, and they don't have a conviction behind it. And they tend to feel stuck. They don't have the belief in themselves because they don't have the infrastructure in place. So they get stuck on a hamster wheel. Why am I not good enough? Why is it not working? Why can't I earn more money? And they get these voices of self-doubt and self-sabotage get in their head. It's a little different flavor for everybody, but they keep looping on autopilot. Whereas if they just went back to basics, just like the basics in business, profit is the first order of business. How do you find profit? You say yes, and you allow a client to pay you. You say, I am ready, please come, I am open for business. You don't say, no, don't come to my website, oh no, don't go to my social media, don't want to call with you. You go out and say, my doors are open, I'd like to work with you. And then you let them pay you. And it really is about the basics. You have to practice the basics, get proficient in them, and also really pay attention to that inner belief system, because it's those little voices inside your head that are going to cause you to stop doing those things. It's the little voices that will allow you to go through the motions of business and success, but not actually thrive with them, right? You'll put up the post, but you'll say, please don't book, please don't book. And you know what? They won't book, or they'll book and then they'll cancel. And that's how it works. Your energy is going to dictate your results.
Yeah, I just made a video yesterday about the subconscious upper limit and how we subconsciously kind of keep ourselves into this ceiling of success and don't let ourselves advance. So a lot of times it comes across as maybe I'm procrastinating, right? So it comes around that time where you're going to finally launch that course, or you have this big product announcement, and then out of the sudden, instead of doing that, you are deep cleaning your kitchen, kind of self-sabotaging yourself into doing something else. Or maybe you made that money, reach your money goals, but you don't feel the joy. You're still feeling kind of guilty and yucky about it instead of enjoying, in believing that you earned it, that your self-worth is, where it should be to receive that money and things like that. So definitely believe on understanding those mindset changes to continue to thrive and grow as a business. Hey there, are you a creative professional looking to elevate your business and artistic vision? Discover the transformative power of personalized coaching tailored specifically for creatives like you. During the sessions, I dive into the unique challenges and goals for your specific business, especially as a creative entrepreneur. That's very important because what you do, it is special and it is different than everybody else. You're going to break through some mental barriers and cultivate a mindset that really nurtures the creativity and resilience of your business. We're going to enable you to thrive in both your personal and professional life. That is my goal for you. If you're ready to embark in an amazing journey of one-on-one coaching with me, hop over to accidentalceo.co and let's get you to be the CEO that you're meant to be.
There in Gay Hendricks' Big Leap, where he talks a lot about the upper limit, he also, right at the beginning of the book, I'm assuming you've read it, he asks the questions like, are you willing to let your life just be good, be easy, be beautiful all of the time? Are you willing to let things go well all of the time? And I remember when I first read that, I had to ask, I'm like, I know I want to just say yes, but I'm like, am I actually willing? Like, wow, I have so many advantages to keeping problems in my life. And we call that secondary gain. I talk about it in my book. It's secondary gain, which is where you have sneaky advantages to keeping your problems around. Like if I get sick, I get to stay home and have a break. Or if my dog eats my homework, I don't have to face them and say I didn't actually do it. Yeah. Whatever it is. But we have these sneaky saboteurs. And when we actually do allow ourselves and ask ourselves those difficult questions, am I willing? Because we're all able to do it. We may not know how to do it yet, but are you willing to give it a shot? Are you willing to give it a try? And that's a choice that you have to make because we're all able. And it's tough because it's a tough pill to swallow. At first, I was like, I am not. And then I'm like, I better ask myself these questions every day because I'm in the mindset world. I'm supposed to be Miss Positivity. And it wasn't like that the first time I asked those questions. And it really threw me for a loop. So
at face value, it seems like, yeah, how would you not say yes to these questions? But when you really start thinking about it, are you okay with shining bright, which might overshadow some people around you? Are you okay with being, allowing that abundance that maybe is money abundance, maybe is happiness abundance, or whatever kind of abundance you want in your life, and be okay with the changes that would happen? Maybe the friends that you have today are not going to be part of your group anymore as you grow and evolve and change to that kind of mindset. So it's easy to say yes without thinking about it, but I mean, when you really reflect on it, are you allowing yourself to really go there? So I love that. Let's talk a little bit more about a little bit of your journey. So your personal story of starting a business on maternity leave without really having a plan, and how do you think that inspires some of the women that you coach today?
I think so often women put a lot of pressure on themselves to have all the answers and to do everything right, especially as mothers and as people that have been successful. I think when people realize you don't have to have all the answers, I started my business Ready, Fire, Aim. I don't recommend it. However, if you're in the boat, keep going, right? You don't always need all the answers. And I think it gives people hope that they can find the answers along the way. I like to go by the philosophy of get it done and then get it right. You've got to get started. And I think it's Les Brown that says, you've got to get started to be great. You can't be great unless you get started. I'm paraphrasing it. I think I messed it up, but you have to just get started, and you're going to grow your wings along the way as you fly. It's never going to be perfect, and it's always going to be perfect at the same time. You just don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah. Do you get it going?
Yeah.
In your transition to mindset coaching, what was the biggest challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it?
Getting systems in place. I had a lot of other systems that were already in place in previous businesses that I had established. But when I started this business, I didn't have like, here is an established company you get to step into. Here's a back office. They gave me a few things to get started from the advisors I'd worked with, but I really had to build things from scratch and actually think about, what do I want this business to be from the very beginning? And it took me a long time to get started, and it is still continuing. I don't think systems ever end in business. It's a big job, and as soon as you get them set, you up level, and then you have to evolve the systems to your next level of growth. And so how did I overcome it? There was one day I was not able to sleep. So it's like 3:30 in the morning, and I am like, spirit is shouting, and I'm like, I can't stay in bed. So I got up, I got to my computer, because I started writing in a notebook in the dark and it wasn't working very well. So I got to my computer, I opened an Excel spreadsheet, and 171 SOPs later, I identified 171 SOPs that I categorized. I felt so complete, and I had a list. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I told a few other people on the call, and those that had like bigger businesses, they were so excited for me. They're like, oh my gosh, that sounds so sexy. That's so exciting. And creating a list of like a master database of the SOPs you have and you want to create, because we had some and some needed to be up level, but I put that big list together. I'd never had that before. I think that was a real big turning point for me, because it gave me that structure and something to come back to. So it was very, very sexy. I need to go back to that every month. Otherwise, it falls off to the wayside.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like it definitely probably helped you feel like a real business. But when you
Yeah.
put all that together, you're like, I have SOPs now. I am ready to go. That's good. So you work with individuals across a broad age spectrum from 2 years old to 95 years old. How do you think that experience kind of inform your coaching practices, especially when it comes to those deeply ingrained belief systems that comes from childhood?
Yeah. I think I mean, I've worked with people from a wide variety of ages, and one of the things I've realized is, you're never too young and you're never too old to learn, to start learning, and to keep learning. And I think change is possible at any age and any stage. I don't buy into people's stories. I am compassionate. I appreciate that that is your circumstance, but that does not have to be your destiny. And so often people love to tell me about their stories. And I may listen to parts of it. However, there's a part where, do you want to just keep telling me the old story, or do you want to do something about it? And keeping their success, really seeing the best possibilities in themselves in my mind at all times, is something I think I'm very, very good at. People say, Larisa, I borrow your belief in me because I don't believe in myself. But I've seen so many people make changes from such terrible situations. I've seen people overcome obstacles that seem insurmountable to other people. And they're pretty straightforward things they've done. They're not magical things that they do. They just do simple, basic things. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And I realize that success is a journey. I know that people can overcome things. I know people, regardless of where they're at, can move to another side. All they have to do is take the first step and take the next step. And I like doing this analogy where it's like, okay, here you are, and you take a first step, and then you take a next step. And then as you're taking the step, it's kind of like you have to pull back a little to take the next step. So there's like a little bit of a wind up to take each step. But when you take a step and stop, it's a lot of effort. But if you take a step and keep going, even if it's slow, you use a lot less energy. You expend a lot less energy. The unconscious mind, one of the prime directives of the unconscious mind, is to work with the principle of least effort. It doesn't want to work harder than it needs to. What do systems allow us to do? Automate things, have them flow, so you don't have to do all the thinking all the time. What does our heart do? It beats the blood, it pumps, so the blood flows through our entire body. We don't have to think about our heart every time it beats. However, it does it automatically because there's something wired in our neurological system to keep it going. Like our whole body functions without us having to think about it. And when we start putting systems in place, that's what your business does. There are little heartbeats and biological ecosystems in your business that you can start putting in place that will do that same thing for you to free up your mental space for something that's actually more important. So change is possible. All you've got to do is take that first step and keep going.
A lot of things are around habits, and habits can be changed and can be learned. And so it's once you recognize where the real issue is, where things are coming from, and if it is mindset, again, those are all things that can be changed and manipulated and adapted. So
Yeah. We often say, like, if you can name it, that ain't it. What you think your problem is probably isn't your problem. There's usually something underneath it, something underneath it, something underneath it, something underneath it. And you've got to be willing to go deep. If you're not willing to actually pay attention to yourself, right? The first problem you think you have in your business, oh, I don't have enough clients. That's not the actual problem, right? Oh, I don't have the right message. That's not the actual problem. There's something deeper that is the root cause of that problem. And same thing with your limiting beliefs in your mindset. There's something deeper, and you've got to be willing to go there. And when you are, it's not comfortable, and it's so rewarding on the other side because you come across stronger than you ever have before.
so your business really aims to create that healthier, wealthier life across the generations. What are some of the strategies that you use to really make sure that you work on a lasting impact when it comes to both your clients and their families?
So I like to keep things simple. So we have a lot of really sophisticated techniques that we do and that we use within our toolbox. But at the core, it's really about dreaming and doing and locking it in. So creating that vision and not just creating it, but allowing yourself to dance with the possibilities and keep playing with your vision. Step into that childlike curiosity. It's when you're a photographer and you do weddings and you do weddings and you do weddings and you're like, oh, another wedding. They become routine. However, when you go on a play date with a photographer friend, it's really fun. And so I do my business on a regular basis. I have a CEO friend that we get together every few months when she comes to town. So we go out and have a CEO play date. Like we just have a very different day where we discuss things, and we're not doing business with our computers, but the magic that happens and the thoughts and the ideas that come from that day are always beyond what we could comprehend. And so simply dreaming and getting that childlike curiosity on, allowing yourself to play is so critical. And I think so often when we get to business, it gets serious and you have to have a future. You've got to provide for your family and earn the money. And we forget about, why are we even doing this anyway? Why are we being creative? Why are we allowing ourselves to have a business in creativity? When you're in the arts are so filling and fulfilling, but when you have to turn it into a business, it becomes a chore. So continuing to dance and play with that. The doing is literally running the drills, taking action on the dream, but also celebrating is so critical because you can have the vision, you can take action on it, and you might get the success. But most high achieving women do not celebrate. They don't take the time to pause and say, wow, this was really good. And I'm going to sit here for 5 minutes and just allow myself to actually feel good about it. No, they're like, okay, well, that was good. Let's see what's next on my list. Oop, next meeting. Oops, next thing. Oop, got to go make dinner. One of the things I put together for my clients, I made them a success journal. Why? Because they didn't acknowledge their own successes. And some of them couldn't even write a success down and own it in the beginning. And some were like, oh, I'm too scared to write in the book, right? Because it makes it permanent. And so locking it in through writing, locking it in by creating a mental picture and just going, like snapping it into the movie of your memory is so key. And I think those moments where you hit the pause button are one of the biggest and most magical things that can allow you to thrive and to see your future evolve. You want a happier, healthier, wealthier life? Decide what that is, take action but also appreciate it along the way so that you don't miss out on the journey. You're not going to let your life just pass you by.
Reflecting on your journey, how has your definition of success really evolved? And how do you convey that to your clients who are maybe struggling with their own definition of success?
I know mine years ago was very monetary based. It's like when I have the house, when I have the car, when I have this much money, I'll be successful. When I have this kind of title, or it tends to be very external in the beginning for a lot of people. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think we can still have that. I still want a lot more of those external things. However, that's not the ultimate thing that's going to make me feel successful or drive my success on a daily basis. Earl Nightingale, he has a definition of success, and he says success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And that means having something that means something to you, like really connecting to something important and powerful and taking action on it on a daily basis, making progress each and every day. And in order to do that, you've got to know what you actually want and value and what's important to you. Going back to the clarity, like it's all about the basics. This isn't, none of it's new, but it all keeps weaving into the same elements. Really knowing what's important to you, not just in your head, but in your heart. And the more you allow yourself to practice, the more you allow yourself to step into these situations and try them on. Do you really want money? Well, what are you going to do with that money? Oh, go buy a yacht? Well, go rent a yacht. Go spend a weekend on a yacht. See if you even want a yacht. Do you want a fancy car? Go try the car. I thought I wanted a fancy car and I went to check it out and I'm like, it looked really nice online. This is not my, I know it's expensive. This is not my car. And I was just so sad because I'm like, I really wanted to love it. And I'm like, I do not love this car. I can't buy you because I don't love you. For me, I had to love something. And it was a really big eye opener because if it's not aligned, it's not going to work. And true success comes from being aligned within and making a difference in your life and other people's lives. So right now, for me, it's very much more internal and taking that internal and expressing it in an external way.
So, what is next for the Abundance Academy? What is the next big achievement that you are working on right now?
Okay, well, I've got my book. This is going to be released in May. So this is one big project that's been in the works for a while. So we are launching Stop Procrastinating Your Life Away. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We were actually just planning the book launch this afternoon. So
Perfect.
very excited about that. And we're also starting a podcast this year. So those are two bigger initiatives that we're taking. Further in the future, some of the things that we really want to do is I'm so passionate about creating those positive ripples and positively impacting ourselves and future generations across the globe. I think from the perspective of health and of mindset, I think there are so many simple things that people just overlook and they wonder why they're tired. They wonder why they can't think, why they don't function, why they can't dream. Offering resources to families that just have never been aware or introduced to that. So both from a charitable perspective and also from a business perspective, really expanding into that family arena. Because I think when families start to thrive, everyone else starts to thrive as well. And it starts at a really young age. I have a 6-year-old and we're very passionate about practicing what we teach with him. My husband and I are very aware. And this isn't just stuff I do for work. This is stuff I integrate into my life. And I think it's so important to have healthy habits. He still loves ice cream, but he also eats kale salad. So things like that. You win some and you have to bend a little. But to start teaching the difference, to teach simple practices, I think is so powerful. So we want to really create an element of sustainability in the world.
Absolutely. We'll link the book for you guys in the show notes so you guys can access and go get it and learn all the good things about it. Larisa, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to work with you or just learn more about what you have to offer.
Yeah, probably if you go to my website, myabundanceacademy.ca, So I'll give you that link. So myabundanceacademy.ca. There is an event that I do each and every month. It's called the Abundance Activation Masterclass, where we actually talk about the 3 C's, the clarity, confidence, and conviction, in more depth. And I share 9 steps that are required for you to step into abundance. We look at what you need to do to overcome stress and overwhelm and a whole lot of other stuff. It's jam-packed. It's free. It's an hour and a half. So that's something that is usually, there's a pop-up or something on the homepage that will lead you to that. And if you want to test drive us, that's probably the best first place to go. Or if you want to talk about more, then there will be a link to book a call right on the site at the top somewhere.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all your own personal experiences and a lot of what you share with your clients. I really appreciate you and your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you as well.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us, and I'll see you next week in another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.